Hi, my name is Francesco Baschieri. I am an entrepreneur. I am originally from Bologna, Italy, and now live in Miami, Florida, United States. My company is Spreaker. We are a technology platform, and we enable content creators to publish, measure, and monetize their audio podcast everywhere. I was at a point in life where I had previously co-founded another company. It was mildly successful. It was a small business rather than a startup company, even though it was a tech business. But me and the group of co-founders had sold it successfully to another Italian company. That had been our first experience as entrepreneurs. We enjoyed the ride, possibly because it went fairly well. So we weren't burnt, and we decided that we wanted to do something new. So I have a background in and the degree actually in computing engineering. I was always fascinated by technology. But eventually, I think after I graduated from the university, my first foray into business and the workspace were not entirely into tech. First, I took the first job that they offered me. It was actually into tech. And I found it more interesting within this company to move and doing something else. I became a project manager, and then I moved on and I ended up working for a food manufacturer, a company doing licorice candies and other weird stuff with food. And then at some point at the age of 32, I asked myself, what am I doing here? The truth is that in my free time, I was still fascinated about technology. I read books about both entrepreneurship and technology, and I wanted to try, and I had no idea how. Probably the only way for me at the stage was to start something myself, because I thought, too old to start from scratch as a, ground level employee. Within a day, I moved from a very comfortable position as an employee, all those perks like the company car, an assistant, an actual office, and the chair, to an empty room with no chairs, of course, no car, no desk, and nothing, in a company where we were supposed to manufacture Bluetooth hotspots, but they were basically boxes. So we're manufacturing boxes and trying to sell these boxes while sitting on the ground. And so it was shocking. At the beginning, it was pretty shocking. It's easier to look at the stages of my entrepreneurial development in hindsight. Most of the time, you have really no idea where you're going and what you're doing. I think at the beginning, most of the time, you're trying different avenues and see what works. We basically found something that was kind of working, and we doubled down on that. So my first company was, as I said, again, mildly successful. We grew to, I think, 12 or 13 employees, and then we got a proposal for an M&A with a customer of ours. And we decided to accept, but we thought it was a good idea at the time. But immediately afterwards, we regretted it. We ended up finding out that we were once again employees. We were into management routines, all those endless meetings. We were not in charge anymore, and that was terrible. So that's why we decided that we wanted to go back and actually apply all the knowledge that we had made for ourselves during the first attempt into a new venture. We were brainstorming for ideas of what to do next, and we wanted to do something which had the potential to be bigger, because we wanted to do something consumer rather than B2B. We didn't really have precise ideas until a guy, a co-founder of mine, came up with the idea of doing something with radio. But then I found out that I was really thinking about music and not radio. And they're two very different things. When I used to listen to radio at the time, I used to listen to talk radio, and there was nothing that allowed independent consumers and independent creators to create a talk radio show on the internet at the time. Yes, for music, yes, for 24/7 streaming, no talk show format. So we decided to start working on it. We didn't even start with the idea of making podcasts. Podcasts would be a byproduct of that. We were thinking, well, you make a show, you can make it live if you want to, and then it becomes archived, and you can consume it as a podcast. So we didn't start from podcast. One of the first things that I did, which I hadn't done before, was travel and move away from Italy. That's where we started, because it was very clear to us that Italy was not going to be the ideal market for what we were going to build. We could use it as a test market. As the medium becomes more widespread, as more people get into it, there's going to be a regression to the mean. So the type of content that people will consume in podcasting will mimic the type of content that people consume in video or in anything else. It just requires some time. I find it pretty hard to think that new things are going to change radically consumer behavior. Some things are going to change consumer behaviors, but most of the people are going to bring their existing behaviors and their existing self into a new media, into a new product or something else. If you're doing this and if you really feel that you heard the calling of doing something yourself, you need to persevere. Being an entrepreneur gives you the opportunity to meet many people when they are starting, and eventually they become successful. And what they all have in common is that they persevered through hardship and hard times. Unfortunately, it's very hard to see while you're in the middle of it, the thin red line that separates perseverance from recklessness. That's why you need strong sounding boards and strong people to give you feedback, because from the inside you cannot. Sometimes being reckless, being crazy, helps you taking the leap of faith and doing stuff. I find that my own filter sometimes paralyzes me. I don't pull the trigger, and sometimes that's a bad thing. My advice to fellow entrepreneurs would be, well, think of how to manage your own emotions, because they're part of the game, and you need to take care of these emotions, otherwise you're not going anywhere. I'm pretty sure my 20 years younger self would be proud of what I have achieved. Unfortunately, during those 20 years, my appetite grew bigger, and so if I had to go 20 years back and I have the chance to do it again, but with what I know now, I wouldn't be satisfied. So that's a conundrum. At the end of the day, you have one life and you want to do the best for it, and it's not necessarily entrepreneurship. But if you go for it, and if you find that it's for you and you can stand it, you'll be rewarded.